I know you guys are excited about this next speaker. And if you're not, someone who was not fortunate enough to be here today is my 7-year-old son. You guys haven't met Braden. Braden on Instagram. My 7-year-old is very passionate about animals. He is also an activist. Braden this week stood outside of a fundraiser for politicians and yelled about bond funding with his classmates. Braden was in the news last year because he spoke at a school board meeting at 6 years old about the problem and the injustice of there being no almond milk in the cafeteria. I wish I was joking. I'm not. I live with him. I'm not joking, like every day. We share a roof. We also live a few blocks from a zoo in downtown Grand Rapids, the John Ball Zoo. Braden considers it his zoo. I have to remind him that it's a public commodity and it belongs to other people. He is emotionally impacted by the events that take place at the zoo. He almost wanted to postpone his birthday party because a hippopotamus got into a fight with a Situ-Tonga and it was on the news. He was like, do you think we should still have it? I'm like, I think we should still have your birthday party. I've spent so much money on these cupcakes. So when I read that this year's nonprofit hub itinerary had the safari dude who's led like 6 Serengeti tours, the sought-after nonprofit leadership coach who teaches us how to have a safari method through leadership and nonprofit, I was like, oh, Braden, you're missing a good one. And so Braden can't be here today because he has 2nd grade, but I would like all of you, I am not joking, I would like all of you to take advantage of this very special opportunity to hear from the one and only, are you ready to put your hands together? Steve Fredlund, the safari dude, right now.
Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe this. Teacher says we're having a frickin' safari at school tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be lions and hippos and giraffes. You got to be there. A frickin' safari. Woo! And he runs upstairs to his room. Mom and Dad just kind of look at each other. Did he just say frickin'? Yes, he did. Don't you think that's a little too close to the F-bomb to be using in school? Yes, I do. So we're going to talk to his teacher. Oh, yeah. So the next day, Mom and Dad show up at school, and they come through the front door, and right away they see these 2 wooden giraffes. And there's a banner hanging between their necks, and it reads, African Safari. Sorry for the dad joke. What do you think of when you think of an African safari? Shout it out. What do you think of? Adventure, beautiful animals, jungle, danger, jeeps, giraffes. Yeah, me too. This is what you think of when you think of an African safari. And that's why I was so confused when I was planning one of the trips and the guide asked me, what kind of African safari do you want to have? The African safari kind of African safari? I don't really understand the question. He said, you're thinking about the default safari. That's what most people think of. Riding in jeeps through the savannah, looking at lions, checking out the giraffes. But the reality is, there are so many more options than that. That's the default choice. In fact, what you can do is you could go hot air balloon riding over the Masai Mara. Yeah. You could take nighttime boat rides looking for Nile crocodiles. You could go bungee jumping near Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. You could even machete your way through a volcanic rainforest and hang out with mountain gorillas. Wait, what? We can hang out with gorillas? Let's do that. And that's what brought us to the side of a volcano in northern Rwanda. It was a long hike up the volcano, 2-3 hours, somewhere in that range, and it was exhausting. It was grueling because of the altitude, because of the incline, because they were making paths for us with machetes, and we had to kind of duck down and go single file through there, surrounded by monkeys and birds and all kinds of creepy crawlies on the ground. And we finally came to a clearing. And our guide told us the gorillas are just on the other side of those trees. So take off anything you don't need, and we're going to go see them. So come on now. So we took off our backpacks. We set down our walking sticks, our water bottles. I put on a GoPro. And once again, we made our way single file through these trees and came out into a world where these gorillas are just living their best life. I look over in this corner, and there's 2 of these baby gorillas. And what they are doing is they are taking turns going up this thin bamboo tree, and then they use their weight to pull the top of the tree down all the way to the ground. And then they jump, and they go flying through the air like a pole vaulter. They release at the top, and they go flying up the hill, and then that one waits for the other one to do the same thing, and then they roll down the hill together. What is happening? And we're watching this, and their mamas are over there just making sure they don't roll too close to us. And we look over here, and there's others that are walking around. They're sitting down. They're eating bamboo leaves, just checking it all out. And I feel something on my back. I've got to be imagining that. There it is again. What did they teach me in training? Okay. Eyes down, crouch down, submit, don't make eye contact. And I started hearing, don't poop your pants. Literally, don't poop your pants. Like, that became my number one concern. And it moves around to the side, and I can see it out of my peripheral vision. It's a massive silverback gorilla. It scares me just talking about it today. It comes around the front, and I've got my eyes down, but I know what's happening, and it's 2 feet in front of me looking right at me. I'm like, don't poop your pants. And finally it runs away. And the guide comes over and says, are you okay? Check. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'll recover. He says, that was Agashia, the alpha male of the group, just wanted to make sure that you understood that this is his family and you are on his turf. Yeah, message received. And time flies when you're hanging out with the gorillas. You get to spend 1 hour with them, and pretty soon it was already over. And it was the most amazing hour of my life, still to this day. And I remember just stepping back just to take it all in one last time. Look at the gorillas, look at the team members, the smiles on their faces, the lush rainforest, the view over northern Rwanda, a place where we've done nonprofit work for the last 10 years, and people that just meant so much to me. And it was just one of those moments. You know those moments? Where it's like, this is so good. And then we left, we made our way down the volcano, and we started our drive to Akagera National Park in eastern Rwanda. It was about a 3-hour drive. We wanted to stay inside of Rwanda. And we started this drive, and I noticed that there were kids down at the bottom of this valley playing soccer. And I asked the driver, stop the cars, stop the cars. He said, we cannot stop the cars. We have a schedule to keep. We need to be there. They're expecting us for dinner at a certain time, so we can't stop the cars. I said, you don't understand. One of the things that we really wanted to do on this trip was to have authentic, spontaneous interactions with local residents. Because you do nonprofit work overseas, a lot of times it's planned, it's scheduled, and those are great moments. But we wanted to have some of those just real spontaneous things. And so I convinced him to stop the car. And so we had a few soccer balls and air pumps left from the other work that we had done, and so we grabbed those out of the back of the vehicles, and I sent the translator down first so the kids wouldn't wonder why these Muzungu are coming down the hill toward them. And we got down there, and we spent about 20 minutes just hanging out with these kids. We'd kick the balls, we'd laugh. They would actually hold our hands, which is pretty customary in Rwanda, and then they would rub my forearms. Like, what's going on there? They were intrigued by the hair on the arms because the adults there, they can't grow hair because of a number of different issues. And I think they thought I was one of the gorillas that maybe escaped out of Volcanoes National Park. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, this is awkward, but it's beautiful. Let's just go with it. And again, when our time wound down there, I just kind of stepped back. Just took it in. This is unbelievable. We are in Rwanda. I'd never been outside of the U.S. before that. We're in this beautiful place with these beautiful people having these beautiful moments. And now it was time to go, and I apologize for making us late, but we made our way to Akagera. And as we were driving there, everybody was just wiped out. Like, this is the same day as the gorilla trek. We're pretty tired. So a few people are sleeping, a couple of people on their journal, they're going through their phones, and I strike up a conversation with the guide and the driver. And we have a wonderful conversation, and at one point, Charles asks me, so you've been on these trips a few times. What did you learn this time that you didn't know before? Oh, I love a good question. You guys love good questions, right? Man, those questions that are like, that is the right question. And I thought about it, and I said, I've known for quite a while that all of the lions were wiped out during the time of the Rwandan genocide. If anybody knows anything about Rwanda, if they know one thing, it's that there's a genocide in 1994. Well, what often people don't know is that all the lions were wiped out as part of that. Either by poachers who entered the park or people who settled there trying to escape the genocide. They would kill the lions to try to protect their livestock, their livelihood. And so there are no more lions. And so I knew that, but what I didn't realize until this trip, talking to people, is how much that meant to the people of Rwanda. How much national pride was built into having lions. They had the symbol of the lion on their flag and all of these different things. And they'd kind of lost that. And so as I was talking about that, Charles and the driver start looking at each other and smiling. Like, what's going on here? Rwandans are very good listeners. This seems a little disrespectful because I'm sharing my heart here, and they're just sitting there smiling. What's going on? And pretty soon they start laughing, and pretty soon they start talking in Swahili. Now, I don't know a lot of Swahili, but I prepare for my safaris by watching Lion King. So I know a few things. Jumbo, right? And I also hear them say the word Simba a couple times, so I know they're talking about lions. And then Charles says to me, you don't know, do you? I don't know a lot of things. I don't know what. There are now lions in Akagera National Park. About a week ago, they were delivered as a gift from South Africa and released into the place that you are going. 7 lions. And you get to be among the first people in the world to maybe see these lions. This is historic. This is monumental. And I'm so excited. Now, I've seen lions in the past, but there's still nothing like seeing a lion in the wild. There just isn't. But I was excited for our team members because we all went on this trip knowing that we would not be able to see lions because we decided to stay in Rwanda, and there are no lions in Rwanda. But now there's a chance they get to see lions. And I was so excited for the people of Rwanda because now I understood how much this actually meant to them. This is a milestone in the rebirth of a nation. So we are out there, we are looking for lions, and we're all excited. We're standing up, we're looking out of the Jeep, we've got our binoculars, we're shielding our eyes from the sun. Terry yells out, "Is that a lion?" The guide says, no, that's just an elephant far off. Just an elephant. These are the kinds of conversations you have when you're on safari. Well, we're all excited, and then I noticed there's one guy, one of our team members, sitting down at the back of the Jeep with his feet up on the seat. I'm like, dude, what's up? He's on his phone. I said, something wrong at home? Nope, just checking email. Yeah, thank you. That was the reaction I had. What? He's never been to Africa. He's 4,000 miles from home. We're doing this amazing thing. We have an opportunity to see these lions, and he's completely disengaged. And it's sort of frustrating. And it kind of ruins the vibe a little bit of the Jeep because we're all like, dude, we need your eyes. I mean, you're missing out, but we're on this important mission to see these historic lions, and we need your eyes. Well, long story short, we end up seeing 3 of the lions. Now, this young lady, we were a little more excited to see her than she was to see us. Even though, like a house cat, she went over, she grabbed her wildebeest kill and drug it over toward the Jeep. Like a house cat with a mouse. Like showing off what her kill was. We're like, okay, that's really impressive. Now, about the same time that I was doing all of these amazing African adventures, the rest of my life was becoming increasingly unhappy. And I first noticed when I was on the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. So it's a bridge that goes over the Mississippi River. I worked downtown Minneapolis, and I would spend my lunch hours going back and forth across the bridge trying to figure out why I was so unhappy. Because it didn't make any sense. I had a great job with a great company, a wonderful marriage, 3 healthy kids. What right did I have to be unhappy? It made no sense. And I was just racking my brain trying to figure out why I was unhappy. So I decided what I needed to do is I needed to operate more in my strengths. And I think that's a really good thing to do. I'm a big fan of strengths finders. I think operating in our strengths is really important. But I thought this is the answer to my unhappiness. So I started doing more things that would use my strengths. So I launched a nonprofit, ran that. I started a podcast, doing all of these things to try to operate in my strengths because that was going to make me happier. It made my resume better. It made me busier, but my core happiness continued to plummet. But I am a thespian. I am an actor. I've done college theater. I know how to act and pretend that I'm happy. And so that's what I did. And I was fooling everybody. Until my wife says, out of the blue one day, do you think it would help you to see a therapist? What are you talking about? Where did that come from? What are you, crazy? What are you talking about? She's like, I know you're unhappy. It's so obvious. And I've known this woman since 2nd grade. So she pretty much knows me. I said, it would probably help me to see a therapist, but I got this. All I need to do is I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong in my life. I must be doing something wrong in my life. I just need to figure that out, start doing it right, and then all will be well. I'll be happy. Who thinks that worked? Nope is the right answer. But I continued on. A couple of years later, she said, we've got the family reunion coming up. I have a request. Do you think it would be possible for the old Steve to make an appearance? Oh, yeah. I remembered old Steve. He was fun. He was a jokester, always bringing this positive vibe to every situation. Man, he was fun to be around. Everybody wanted to sit with him at the family reunion. What happened to old Steve? My wife missed him too, apparently. But I thought, I'm going to figure this thing out. I kept trying. I kept trying new things. I got this. I just got to figure it out. And then one day it finally all came to a head. I'm sitting in my car, outside my work office, hunched over the steering wheel, completely sobbing. I think I'm broken. Maybe I need to find somebody that can help me fix my brain. Maybe I need to take the advice of my wife from years earlier. Maybe talk to somebody about this, because this can't go on. So I go and I see a therapist. And she says, all right, just tell me your story. And I shared for maybe 15 or 20 minutes some of the stuff that I shared with you. And then she cuts me off. She says, Steve, just let me ask you a question. What kind of life do you want to have? I was reminded of that question I was asked about what kind of African safari do you want to have? What do you mean? A good life, I guess. That's what I want. She says, what I keep hearing from you is this series of defaults and expectations and shoulds, and I don't know if you even know what kind of life you want to have. You keep talking about what people expect of you. You keep talking about what you should do. You keep saying, I know I should. She had me do a thought experiment. She said, if you could just strip that away for a moment, strip away all the defaults, all the expectations, all the shoulds, what kind of life do you actually want to have? And I just sat there, kind of stared at her, and she stared at me, and she just waited. Kind of got awkward. I said, oh, you mean now? Because I use humor as my deflection. She said, yeah, now. I have no idea. It's probably the most honest I'd ever been in all of my 40 years. So here I am. I've got these two things going on. I've got these amazing African safaris. And then I've got this life that's becoming increasingly unhappy. And I realized that I'm taking my life for granted. I'm not treating my life like it is an epic adventure. I'm treating my life like it's the kind of stuff that happens between the good stuff, between the adventures. Just kind of plugging along, doing what I'm supposed to do. When I realized life itself is an epic adventure. It's the same thing that Helen Keller decided. Life is either an epic adventure or it's nothing at all. What if I started to approach my life with the same intentionality, with the same sense of purpose that I approach African safaris? And so I started an experiment. I'm an actuary. I'm a recovering actuary, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an accountant but without the personality. So I'm in recovery, but I don't know if anybody ever fully recovers from being an actuary. But I approach things very, very analytically. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to document everything I do in terms of planning and executing an African safari. So I wrote it all out. I documented it all. And my experiment was, what if I started to apply that to my life? What if I took that same intentionality and started to apply it to my life? And it took about 2 days for me to start increasing my happiness. And I'm not talking about, oh, now I'm going to wear a red hat and put on a yellow tie and dance and juggle. Not that kind of happiness. I mean my core happiness. Like, what is happening here? And within a few weeks, old Steve started coming back. I'm like, maybe I've got something here. Maybe I've got a key to increasing my happiness, to start approaching it in the same way that I approach safaris. And so I gave that same thing to a couple of friends that I knew were going through the same sort of thing. They had the same sort of response. They're like, what is going on? And I started talking to my coaching clients. I coach nonprofit leaders. I started sharing it at different assemblies and things. And the stories of transformation have been pouring in, and we're like, what is going on? There's something about this, viewing our life as an epic adventure rather than something that happens between the adventures, rather than something that happens between the vacations. And so in the time that I have left, is that time right? We got about 5 minutes left? That seems fast. Yeah, the timer's at 25 and I got 30, so I got about 10 minutes left because I'm like, oh man, I got to run through these. Okay, thank you. So in this time, I want to share the big five. These are the things that I've found that these are the key five. I call it the big five because if you know anything about safaris, you got to have the big five, right? But these are the things that when I apply these to planning and carrying out an African safari, it makes that safari epic. But it also makes our lives more epic. So we're going to run through these. The first one is choose your experience. And this is something that we already talked about. This is something that I had to figure out for the safari. This is something the therapist asked me. Most of us are so inundated and so layered with defaults and expectations and shoulds, we don't really know what kind of life we really want. We don't even really know what kind of nonprofit leader we want to be. We don't even really know what kind of mission we want to have. As I've talked to leaders, as I've talked to small business owners, this is the question I ask them. Well, what kind of experience do you want to have? And I get the same blank stare that I gave my therapist. I don't even get the question. Because when we are born into a set of defaults. Our family situation, our community. We inherit certain ways to think about politics, about religion, about alcohol, about fishing, about sex, about drugs, all of these different things. We just inherit how to think about those things. And then over the years, we layer on all of the expectations. Anybody ever expect anything from you? Right? Growing up, our parents, our grandparents, our siblings, our teachers, they have expectations on us. We get into the nonprofit world. Your donors have expectations. Your clients have expectations. The community has expectations. Everybody has all these expectations on us. And then we get should on all the time. S-H-O-U-L-D. Should on. Right? Hey, you know what you should do? You should go to Cause Camp. You should go see the safari dude. You should write a book. You should. And it doesn't mean it's not well-intentioned. Oh, maybe I should. I should write a book. I should read a book. I should go to Cause Camp. I should see the safari dude. I should sit with these people at the table. I should. And we have all of these layers of defaults and expectations and shoulds. And so my thought experiment for you is try to strip all those away. Where it's just Bill, it's just Jan. What kind of experience do you actually want to have in your life, in your work, and in your leadership? And maybe just start with one thing. Maybe that's too big of a question. What is one thing, maybe write this down, that you would like to have just a little bit more of in your life? Maybe it's a friend, which is a big thing, right? Maybe it's a little bit of laughter. Maybe it's a little bit more seriousness. What is that one thing that you'd like to just have a little bit more of that would get you closer to your experience? This is fundamental. This is foundational. The rest of these big five, the rest of living the safari way, crumbles if we don't have this. If we don't know the experience we want to have, the rest of it doesn't really matter. Think about your mission. As an organization, if you don't know the mission, if you don't know what you really want to do to impact the community and the world, how do you make decisions? It's fundamental. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Anybody know Alice in Wonderland? Okay. I used to do this actual exchange between Alice and the Cheshire Cat with accents, but then I listened to it, and I realized how terrible I am at accents. Basically, the summary of it is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. It's true in nonprofit leadership. It's true in our life. It's true in our friendships. It's true in our family. It's true everywhere. Choose your experience. Secondly, get the right peeps in your Jeep. How big is this? When you're on an African safari, this is critical. I mentioned the guy checking his phone during the look as we were looking for the Akagera lions. Great guy. Friends with him to this day. But he was the wrong peep in the Jeep. Because he was on a safari, he wasn't on safari. He was on a mission, he wasn't on mission. We need to get the peeps in our Jeep, whether it's life, work, leadership, where it's those folks who are aligned and connected with what we're doing, the people that are going to support and encourage us based on the experience that we want to have. And this can be a hard thing to do because we have a bunch of different safaris in our life experience and a bunch of different Jeeps, and sometimes we just feel like, well, it is what it is. My family Jeep is my family Jeep. What can I do about it? My friendship Jeep, my work Jeep. But the reality is we have more agency than we realize in getting the right peeps in our Jeep and getting the wrong peeps out of the Jeep. Or at least changing where they're sitting in the Jeep. Maybe we can move a few people closer. Maybe we can move a few people further out. Well, I don't want to hurt feelings. I understand that. I'm from Minnesota. I get it. 5th generation, same small town. I understand you don't want to hurt feelings. But the first day that I did this, where I was intentional about kicking somebody out of my Jeep, doing it graciously, it was so empowering. I just felt like I'm living my life all of a sudden. I don't think I have time to share this. I'll share the story. Well, we'll make it quick. Because people say, well, how do you do this? How do you do it? How do you do it gracefully? Honesty. I play Texas Hold'em. I hope that's okay to say that in this room. But I play in a local casino, and there's a guy who's just a great guy, fun guy. On breaks, we hang out, we laugh, we yuck it up. You know, just a fun guy. He said, hey, come on over one of these days, and I'm going to grill for you. We'll have something to drink. It'll be a great time. So I said, okay, cool. So I went over to his place, and for 2 hours, he talked about himself. You know anybody like this? If you are somebody like this, stop it. I mean, stop it. He talked about himself for 2 hours. And I would try to interject. He would just switch the subject. It became a game for me. I turned on my phone 43 minutes between when I said words. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I'm not kidding. It became kind of fun, actually. But after 2 hours, he's like, that was so great. We got to do this again. Of course it was great. You got to talk about your favorite subject for 2 hours. But then what happened is every time I'd go to the casino, he's like, hey, when are we going to do that again? Let's get something on the calendar. And I would avoid him. I would dodge him. I would make up excuses on why I couldn't get together. And it was just awful. I didn't even want to go play because I was trying to avoid this guy who I actually really liked. Right? And finally, I just had the conversation with him. I said, here's the deal. I'm summoning the courage as a Minnesotan to tell you this. You are a great guy, but I'm at a place in my life right now where I need to be in relationships with people where it feels like it's mutually beneficial. And I feel like you're more interested in talking about yourself and you're not that interested in talking about what's going on in my world. Ugh. I almost threw up saying it. And he almost threw up receiving it. I mean, that's a hard thing to hear, right? I think I did him a favor by telling him this. But I never had to dodge him anymore. It was a little awkward, but now it's not awkward. But just those gut level honesties say we have the power to invite people into our Jeep and to kick people out and to move people around in the seats. And this is true in work as well. And I do a whole session on how do we get the right peeps in our Jeep at work, which is a whole nother sort of topic. Number 3, do the unright thing. Notice this doesn't say do the wrong thing. Right? It's the unright thing. Most of us spend our lives, at least I do, and I know I've met a lot of people, trying so hard to do everything right. Anybody relate to this? A few of you? If it's not you, it's somebody you know. It's somebody on your team. Okay? I want to go to the right school. I want to get the right job. And I'm letting other people define what right is. I want to marry the right person. I want to have the right number of kids, or I don't want to have kids because that's the right thing to do. And I want to live in the right house. And I want to drive the right car. And I want to have the right job. And I want to lead the right nonprofit. And I want to have the right mission statement. And I want to do everything right. And it's exhausting. Sometimes the answer is to do the unright thing. My wife at 45 years old took up piano lessons. Cool. That wasn't the right thing to do. She's sitting there with 5-year-olds at her piano recital, and they're like going up there with no music and doing Tchaikovsky, and she's up there with music like plunking, right? But good for her. It's the unright thing. My mom, 74 years old, has cancer, takes up painting. What are you doing? I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun to try. It's not the right thing to do. It's like playing soccer with the kids instead of meeting our obligation and getting to the restaurant on time. Sometimes doing the unright thing is what's going to give us life. And I want to encourage you, think of one thing that you love to do or that maybe you think you'd love to do that you haven't done in a year. Write it down, make a plan, get it done. For the last 5 years, I keep saying, I'm going to go sing karaoke. I don't know why, because I want to do it, but I haven't yet. I need to do that. And by the way, it used to be karaoke. I don't know when we added an extra vowel, but it used to just be karaoke. Number 4, pause and take in the view. Like with soccer, like with gorillas, like when we're on the edge of the Ngorongoro crater, which you see here. Sometimes we just need to pause and take in the view. So many of us, it's, right, nonprofit leadership? I know. Boom, 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 next thing, go, go, go. Our life, our work, our community, our mission, our passion, sometimes just pause. Take in the view. Be grateful. Start a gratitude journal. I had one of those in my gift bag, right? Pause and take in the view. We got to fly through these. And number 5, embrace the adventure. The previous speaker talked about that. Life is full of ups and downs, highs and lows, knowns and unknowns, just like a safari. There's times when you're surrounded by elephants. Yep, it's happened. There's times when you get mugged by baboons. Yep, it's happened. We've been stuck in the mud. We've had flat tires. We've had an airport fire in Nairobi, Kenya, where we were stranded for 24 hours without a translator, and our whole trip got blown away and got lost. There's tough stuff, and that's what happens in the nonprofit world, right? I know. There's some tough stuff, but there's some great stuff. And it's ups and downs, it's highs and lows. What's going on? What's going to happen next? What's around the next bend? What's waiting in the tall grass? We don't know. But happiness, rather than trying to block it all out, rather than trying to manage it all, rather than trying to control it all, because we can't anyway, just like parenting, control is an illusion, right? We can't control it anyway, so how do we learn to embrace it? This is part of our story. This is what it means to be on safari. This is what it means to be a nonprofit leader. This is what it means to be human. The human experience is filled with all of these ups and downs, highs and lows, knowns and unknowns. Figure out a way to embrace it. If you want to connect, if you want to give me feedback, here's a great way to do it. Obviously, no obligation to do it. But one thing I want to leave with you guys with, and I will do a drawing. Whoever does this, I've got a soapstone hippo carved out of soapstone from Kenya, carved by my friends in Rwanda. So I'm going to give that away to somebody that's really cool. I should have brought it on stage with me. But the reason I bring that up is because I want to encourage you, whatever you hear from this conference, whether it's me, the previous speaker, amazing, all the speakers that you're going to hear, something is going to resonate with you. Something's going to resonate, and I want to encourage you, do something to keep that front of mind. Don't just leave here and let it go. Sometimes it's a soapstone hippo. For me, it's an elephant on my lock screen on my phone. It might be whatever it is to remind you of how you want to live your life, how you want to approach your leadership. My name is Steve Fredlund. I am the Safari Dude, and I want to encourage you to live your life like the epic adventure it is with the top down and the wind blowing through your hair. Thank you.